Welcome back, boxing fans, to another great show with Sean on Boxing. This is a live boxing video from Phuket, Thailand. Um, Sorry, I haven't been that active. I've been a little busy enjoying my vacation. Um, but I'm laying here today after breakfast, chilling. And of course, there's a lot of breaking news that I wanted to discuss. Obviously, one of the biggest questions in boxing post this past weekend was what is Alexander Usyk going to do next? Is he going to potentially retire, or is he going to keep fighting? And if he does continue to keep fighting, who is he going to fight next? So that was a big question. Obviously, you saw it on the Monday after his big performance. Everybody's speculating and discussing about who potentially it was. I mean, for most people, it kind of was a no-brainer, but of course, everything fell into place, making that obvious choice a little more obvious, and that's a good thing. And we'll discuss that in a minute as well. But there's also been discussion, of course, about where he ranks all time, right, as far as a heavyweight. And these kind of discussions always happen when somebody is doing great. We can remember not that long ago that Tyson Fury was being discussed as an all-time great and where he would fall on the list. And me and many other people didn't necessarily have him as the best fighter in the world. But what we did say is that historically, people would have a hard time beating Tyson Fury because of his overall package, being 6'9", with such a long reach and such refined boxing skills for a big man. So these were always issues that you figure would have caused people problems. Not that he was the best, but he was definitely needing to be in the conversation. So here's Usyk. Usyk has beaten Anthony Joshua. He's beaten Tyson Fury. He's beaten Daniel Dubois. And not only did he beat Daniel Dubois, he did it easier the second time around. And Paulie Malignaggi brought this up, and this is a true thing, and I think people kind of underestimated this. The first time that Usyk and Dubois fought in Poland, it was a wet ring because it had been raining. So it was slippery and obviously not the best conditions, especially for a mover, a boxer like Usyk, as opposed to Dubois, who is obviously a lot more of a flat-footed fighter. And post-fight, I remember bringing this up and talking about how I felt that this was an obvious reason why Usyk didn't look as dominant in that fight as people had expected him to. But you know, obviously because of Dubois' great performances post-fight, we sort of had to look past that and give a lot of credit to Dubois, because obviously he came out and he beat 3 quality opponents back to back to back. So at that point, you know, you had to say, oh, okay, you know, he's obviously better than we thought. But with the way Usyk beat him, and in my prediction, you guys may remember, I talked about how usually when a guy knocks a guy out in the first fight, the second time around, it comes easier, it comes faster. And that's exactly what happened. Usyk easily dispatched him, made Dubois look like a quitter once again for like the 3rd time of his career. We have to question Daniel Dubois' heart. And that's not hating on Dubois. It's just obviously when we get to this level of sports, the mental aspect is so important if you want to be elite, right? And with Dubois, the mental aspect has always been in question with him. Whereas if you look at Usyk, it's a complete opposite. Nobody would ever question Usyk's mental capacity in a high-level stakes match. That's one of his strengths. Obviously, he's not the biggest heavyweight or the fastest heavyweight or the strongest heavyweight. He may be one of the most skilled heavyweights in boxing history. That definitely is true. But also mentally, he's definitely one of the toughest. People who are old enough may remember Muhammad Ali, and one of the things people really appreciated about Ali, outside of course of him being a sublime athlete with unbelievable foot speed and hand speed, was also his mental toughness, right? Not only did he have a granite fucking chin and tough as nails, but mentally, you know, that guy was put together. And that's why he could do what he did, because mentally he was superior to his opposition. And you have to give Usyk a lot of the same credit. As far as putting Usyk on the top 10 list of all time, I think he's a top 10 heavyweight of all time. Depending on where you want to put him on the list, that's up to you. Obviously, it's all speculation because these guys are not going to fight. So, it's hard to necessarily say where somebody truly ranks. But what I would say is that Usyk gives everybody in the top 10 a great fight, right? Obviously, there's some guys stylistically that probably are favored. I would favor to beat him. But then there's many guys on that list I would favor him to beat them as well. And we can go over that list. I'll put it in the comment section so you can take a peek of it and let me know what you think. This is a list by the BBC, I think it was. But yeah. But let's get back to the action, the breaking news. Breaking news of the moment. Rest in peace, Hulk Hogan. That was very shocking today. And rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne. Another shocker. Two guys that just passed away now that I'm on my vacation. So that's some of the news I have gotten. But the WBO has just announced that Parker and Usyk is now mandated. And this is perfect because that's the fight that should have been mandated, right? Parker doesn't need to fight somebody else to put himself in position. He's already done that, and he's put himself in position. He's also come through great performances in his most recent fights. No different than, of course, the tough German Turkish kid, and of course Dubois. I had those three fighters top 5 pound for pound. So the fact that Usyk just beat one of them and now is going to be chasing after another, that's exactly the level of opposition I think boxing fans want him to fight. Obviously, Parker is not from the UK, but he's affiliated to the UK, very similar to Usyk. So, that fight's going to have a good fan base behind it as well. Parker, unlike Dubois, mentally is tougher, technically is better. He might not be as physically dominant as Daniel Dubois as far as his size and power. But what he does bring to the ring is versatility. And with his new trainer, Andy Lee, you got to give him a good shot because Andy Lee is definitely showing up and showing out. And hats off because I've always had respect for Andy Lee. And I think it's great to see him get in there and really make an impact on these fighters. And Parker as well. Parker's a good guy, down to earth, a real likable character. So it's only fitting that he finally gets the opportunity to fight for Undisputed. And it's a great matchup. Obviously, I favor Usyk to win, but I think Parker's going to get kind of underestimated because of his versatility, the fact that he can do so many things in there. He may not be great at any of those things, but he's very good at many of them. And against a guy like Usyk, that just may be the perfect sort of chemistry to give Usyk what could be one of the toughest fights of his career. And so I'm very eager to see that happen. Obviously, it's a great matchup. Many people are hoping Usyk would retire. And of course, that's something he could have done. But the way he looked in his last few fights, does he really need to retire? Is it something really necessary for him at this time? Or is this the kind of thing that could be held off? And I think definitely it needs to be held off at this point. He's definitely shown that he is showing up and showing out, definitely performing at a very high level. And because of that, I think people need to sort of give him a complete pass as far as this retirement conversation goes, and look forward to him stepping up and taking on great opposition. Could potentially he get beat in the process? Of course. That's always a risk in sports. If you're performing in sports, you risk losing. But isn't that what we want great athletes to do? We don't want them to take the safe way out, to protect themselves and cherry pick opponents that they know they can beat. We want to see them risk themselves, risk their legacy by taking on the best opposition available. Not to hate, but an alternative perspective of this is Tank Davis, who speculation is, I just heard yesterday, and you can correct me if this is true or not, But from what I heard, and as I said, I'm on vacation, so I'm not scrolling through and following things as much as maybe some other people are right now. But there's talk about him potentially retiring. The fact the potential rematch with him and Lamont Roach may be canceled and he may be retiring from what people are speculating right now. I don't want to delve into that because I don't have enough information on it, but it's just something I saw yesterday on social media. But that's the perfect example, right? A guy who's literally physically in his prime, but a guy that mentally is just not that great, unlike Usyk. Physically, he's got all the attributes, but mentally, he's just not where he needs to be to really be a dominant fighter in the world today. And the fact that he's contemplating retirement, whereas he's only 30, 31 years old, literally, this is the time of his life right now. He could make tens of millions of dollars, solidify him and his family's future, but he's more focused on retirement. Whereas Usyk, on the other hand, he's fighting for his country, he's fighting for his family, he's fighting for his religion. You know, he has motivational targets that keep him focused, keep him disciplined, as he said. I'm not motivated, I'm disciplined. With a guy like Tank Davis, you got to question his, not his motivation, but his discipline, right? You know, like Hagler once said, it's hard to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning when you're sleeping in silk sheets. And with Tank Davis, this is a perfect example of a guy who may be sort of suffering from this kind of situation. And as I said, I'm not trying to hate on Tank Davis. I only want to see Tank Davis do the exact same thing I want Usyk to do. Fight the best opponents available to him, right? That's it. I'm just using him as a counterpoint to show you mentally how strong Usyk is and what a great legacy he has. But let me know in the comment section below, what do you think? Who would you prefer Usyk to actually fight next? Are you cool with him taking on Parker? I mean, I think it's a win-win for fans. Parker might not be the most exciting fighter in the ring, but stylistically, he's definitely a tough opponent. And if Usyk is able to beat him, what a fucking fantastic addition to his resume that would be. He might not have the most heavyweight matchups, but you definitely have to give him all the credit in the world for who he has fought. Of course, you have some delusional American fans who somehow feel that Deontay Wilder needs to be on that resume. Otherwise, it's just not as accomplished as it should be. 78 Sports TV. Oh my God. Yet, if he beats Parker, he beat a guy that just beat Deontay Wilder. So I guess that sort of, you know, solves that whole solution. But I'm excited. This is a fight that I was eager to get done. I would love to see the winner then take on Adjikabial next, because I definitely think Adjikabial, similar to Parker, has been ignored, overlooked, and basically ducked. Ever since Adjikabial beat Derek Chisora, he's basically been shelved by all the top boxers in the world and avoided. Only thanks to Turki Al-Sheikh and his deep pockets did Adjikabial finally start to get some opportunities. And even with those opportunities and those great performances, people are still ducking him because they see how bad he is, how dangerous he is, right? And as I said a while ago, I think the one guy who could beat Usyk is Adjikabial. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace out.